All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we're making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
All right. Welcome once again. Monday night, another episode of Bring It here on the ASAP Network. I am your host, the Big Dog, and with me, Jai is in the house tonight. What's up, Jai?
What's going on, Big Dog? What's going on, crew? Good to be on. Good to be on.
Yes, good to have you. Jai is the host of the I'm Gonna Tell It Like a TIS podcast. Podcast is hot. This week's episode is hot. You got to listen to it. He is on a roll, so definitely check that out. And my buddy JK in the house. What's up, JK?
What's up? Thanks for having me, fellas. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. Always good to have you in the house. So much going on, but of course the big story is the NBA Finals. Warriors came back last night and won in convincing fashion in the second half after a close first half. Come back and win. Jonathan represents Warrior Nation here in Florida. So I'm going to give the floor to you first there, JK. What was your take on the game last night? A lot of stuff going on. You know, we were texting during the game, but share your take with what was your take on last night's game?
Well, I walked into the game a little bit nervous, I'll admit it, because down 1-0 at home, that's not a good look, especially the way that they lost that game in game one. They pretty much dominated the entire game until the fourth quarter. And the Warriors have been apt to do that throughout the season. And in the postseason, they've dropped a couple of games bad. They lost by they were about to lose by 50 to Memphis, and they also lost big to Dallas on the road. So I walked in and I was like, uh-oh, I don't really know what Warriors team I'm going to get. But looking at that game, it seemed like whatever rustiness that they had from game one, because remember, the Warriors have been off for a week because they closed out that series early. So whatever rust that they were dealing with in game one was knocked off, and they came in, took care of business, and closed out the game.
No, they definitely did. Especially the Warriors have been their third quarter in the playoffs have definitely been like their key quarter, their time to shine, if you will. Jai, you know, last night first half was really tough. Warriors come in the second half, basically dominate. Now, can you say that, you know, the Warriors basically stepped up, or did the holes in Boston finally show last night?
The holes in Boston show. They've had tremendous problems in the playoffs, and they've played as well as anybody in the NBA. You know, dating back to when the calendars flipped to 2022. But the holes that you saw in Boston was that when Jason Tatum is off, and that's also a major red flag from a Boston Celtics perspective. When Jason Tatum is not scoring, it's a game. It's a game of pulling a name out of the hat. It's a game of pulling a rabbit out of the hat to figure out who's going to compensate. You know, you saw Al Horford go out there and dominate game one, and especially in the fourth quarter. Game two last night, he had 2 points. He only attempted 4 shots from the field. You know, you look at him. You look at Marcus Smart, attempted only 6 shots. 2 points. Williams, their other big man, only attempted one shot, didn't get to the free throw line. He also got 0 points. Really, the only production you got was Jaylen Brown, 5 of 17, 3 of 9 from 3, 17 points. Only got to the free throw line 5 times. When everybody else up and down on the roster throwing White, their guard coming off the bench, who played 30 minutes, scoring 12 points, attempting 13. That's not good enough. And it just goes to show that the Warriors don't. And I will probably get to Klay Thompson a little bit later on, but in a sequence of a game, they don't need Klay Thompson to be hot. As long as Steph Curry and throwing a little Jordan Poole and everybody else is doing their part, and Draymond Green, this and the other, they're going to be all right. The problem is if you're the opposition is that you got to be able to score. It can't be the Jason Tatum show and everybody else takes a night off. Because, and I love Jason Tatum. I've gone on this show many a times and sung his praises like you wouldn't believe on my show and this, that, and the other. But the bottom line is Jason Tatum is not Steph Curry. And Steph Curry is going to take over games and is going to be automatic with his jump shots and his 3-pointers in ways that Jason Tatum cannot produce and cannot play. So I think you got to give the Warriors, who are not known, at least in my eyes, as a historically defensive team. I said on my show prior to Game 2 that Golden State, the way that they beat you is outscoring you, not necessarily with great defense, but you got to give them credit. They had the Celtics suffocating on offense, especially in the second half. Combined in the second half, the Boston Celtics scored 38 points in the second half, 14 in the third, 24 in the fourth. Together, 38 points in the second half. The Warriors defense did a sensational job defensively. But with the Celtics, if it's not Jason Tatum, who's it going to be? Al Horford, one night he'll score. I forget what game in the Milwaukee series it was. I'm pretty sure I could, either one of you all, or I could look up to get the specifics. But there was a game, it might have been either game 5 or 6, when Al Horford scored like 30, 35 points. And then the next night, he was nowhere to be found. So Al Horford, some nights he shows up and plays out of his mind. And in the game after the fact, he can't score offensively. So you got to have who's going to be, and I said on my show who was going to be the third guy, because of course Jaylen Brown, who had an I game, but I games on the road against Golden State in the NBA Finals aren't good enough to win games. You can't play you got to play great going up against that team. So, and I said on my show who's going to be the third guy to step up. As of last night, who was going to be the second guy to step up?
Right. You mind if I piggyback off of that?
Go ahead.
So once the series started, Yoel and I started texting back and forth, and Jai, I kind of want to throw it to you. The thing to watch with this Celtics Warriors game or this series is the dynamic of Al Horford and Kevon Looney. Whoever wins that matchup, that team is going to win the series, I think, because everybody else pretty much cancels themselves out. We know Steph is going to throw up 25 plus points a game. We know somebody on the Celtics, whether it be Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum or Derek White, somebody's going to have a big game every single game this series. The problem with Boston is they don't have anybody who's consistently going to show up. That's one of the biggest problems. And then the other problem is if Kevon Looney is allowed to get, what did he have? 7 rebounds? If he's allowed to dominate the paint by himself, you're not going to beat this Warriors team. We saw it in the Dallas
series. 6 of them defensively, 7 in total. You make it.
Right. If Kevon Looney, if you're just going to let him live in the paint, and there's really no excuse for Boston to have that because they are the bigger team. They've got Robert Williams in the paint. They've got Al Horford in the paint. They have bigger guys who can compete, but they're letting Draymond Green and Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins had a couple of big rebounds and putbacks. So what do you feel, Jai, what do you feel like the biggest dynamic is going to be? I think it's Looney and Al Horford. What do you think?
That's a tremendous point, JK. It goes back, Boston, Golden State out-hustled Boston. They out-hustled them, and they wanted game 2 more. I mean, like you said, when you have the Steph Currys of the world and your guards racking up rebounds, and we've said this going into we've all said this and thought this going into the series, that the advantage that the Celtics have is that they're bigger, they're bigger than Golden State. Going back to the Memphis Golden State series in the second round. One of the reasons outside of John Morant why the Memphis Grizzlies were able to stay in that series as long as they possibly could without John Morant is because they had bigger guys. They knew how to rebound. They know how to crash the board. Golden State. They had Stephen Adams had phenomenal rebounding games.
Yes.
And I look at the stat sheet and I see that Golden State got outscored Boston 40-24 with points in the paint, and was just crashing the boards left and right defensively, and even got a couple of big time offensive rebounds to prolong possessions. You can't have that. You can't. Right. Now the series in theory is in Boston's favor because of the fact that they did not allow Golden State to go undefeated at home in the first two games. Boston comes out, wins games 3 on Wednesday. They still have a layup, so it's not anything, red flag, time to panic. But if you're the Celtics, you cannot get just dominated in the paint the way you did on last night and expect to win games and get out rebounded. You're a bigger team. You're a more physical team than Golden State's finesse. Boston, you know how to grind out games. You're a mentally tough and physically tough basketball team. You cannot allow that to happen anymore. If Golden State outshoots you and is hoisting up threes left and right, and they can and they're making every last one of them, fine. But they beat the Celtics last night. Truth be told, outside of some nice performances out of Curry and Jordan Poole from the perimeter, outside of those two, they beat the Boston Celtics at their own game last night. The Celtics were pathetic shooting twos and missing wide open easy layups last night. Beyond pathetic.
No doubt.
And here's the problem. I'm sorry, y'all.
No. Continue. But I have a point for you after you're finished.
Okay. And here's the problem that Boston has. If they don't have 3 starters scoring big, there's no way they're going to beat Golden State. Conversely, Golden State, Draymond Green is one of the most important people on that starting lineup. If he scores 10 points, it's amazing. If he scores 5 points, you're like, okay, he did a good job. He's probably the only guy that I've seen since Dennis Rodman who is so important without being anything offensively. But for Boston to win this series, we can't have multiple games with Jaylen Brown being a no-show one game, Jason Tatum being a no-show for a game. Like, their leadership, and this is where I think there is a difference in the way Golden State is being down 1-1 versus Boston, is because Golden State has the leadership. They have the championship DNA. They've been in these situations before. They've been down 2-1 on the road before. They've been in series where they're in hostile territory and they're not favored and they've come out on top. Whereas Boston, I really feel like they're lucky to be in the finals. And we can talk about that later if we really want to get into it. They're really lucky to be in the finals, I feel. Going 7 games with a Miami team that was hobbled and had no superstars outside of Jimmy Butler is awful. That is awful. They should have closed that one out in 5 and been done with it.
Exactly.
I think also as well with Boston, the thing that concerns you about Boston, and then something that doesn't. What doesn't concern you about Boston is that they know how to bounce back off of losses. They know how to bounce back losing Game 6 in their own building against Miami last Friday. They knew how to bounce. They knew how to bounce back when Marcus Smart cost them a game, and I believe it was in the Game 5, Game 6. I think it was Game 6. Against Milwaukee in the second round. They know how to bounce back off of losses better than anybody in the NBA, which is why they're one of the 2 last teams standing here in this 2021-2022 NBA season. But the negative about them is that Jason Tatum especially, they're never able to consistently, it goes back to a point with Al Horford, they're never able to consistently put together back-to-back great games. Now, ironically enough, I'm not saying that they can't win back-to-back games, but for a perfect example, Game 7, Jason Tatum put up what he put up in Game 7, and then Game 1 on Thursday night, he was pathetic. Celtics still
Right.
won the game, won back-to-back games, but they never are able to get that consistent 35 and that consistent 30, 10, and 5, just using that as an example. They're never able to get that performance from a Tatum, from an Al Horford. They're never able to get that on a consistent basis. And I think that's what worries me, because Golden State knows how to put Steph Curry can score 40 points in back-to-back games in his sleep.
At least 25. Yeah.
They got to be able to do that. Another thing about Boston too, as well as they are a road team, they've been very
awful.
They've been I'll put it to you like this: they've been vulnerable at home in the playoffs. They've lost a couple of home games to the Bucks in the second round. They lost Game 6, a closeout game in their own building, of course, back a week or so ago against Miami. So they are
a hobbled Miami too.
Road team.
Miami.
And they are a vulnerable road team. And you mean to tell me that Steph Curry, one night he's feeling it and he's just making every single shot and he stuns the TD Garden to the point where you can hear a rat piss on cotton. So I think it's imperative that Boston takes care of business at home and make sure that when the series goes back to Golden State, that they have an advantage in this game. At worst, it's tied 2-2.
No doubt. Definitely. Tony, our producer, sent me a note here. He said Draymond Green was compared earlier to a more athletic and better all-around player than Rodman. He makes everyone around him better by taking care of the little things. And he definitely did last night. He was getting into guys, getting physical last night. They were saying, it should have been a flagrant. No, he's just playing ball. He's getting in the way Rodman would get into you back in the 90s. He was getting into those guys. I forgot, it was a press conference. Someone said there was like not Rodman, but his Freudian slip. The Green was like trying to pull his pants down or something like that. I mean, I think what you said about Rodman, JK, was definitely a valid point, that he's definitely, getting into these guys' heads. I mean, the inexperience of Boston, I think, showed last night, more than, obviously, they got outplayed, but Draymond Green was definitely a driving force last night. Another interesting thing I want to talk about is how not the word non-indecisive, but non-effective has Klay Thompson been. Thompson hasn't really had game 1 and game 2. He really hasn't been the typical Klay Thompson. Now, I'll turn to you, JK, first. Do you think it's because of he's still getting his game back, or is he just, is he tired because he hasn't played a full year all of a sudden? Or, what is it? Because, Poole had an amazing game last night, especially that shot at the end of the third quarter. That was insane. But, Jai tweeted that was like the last night, that the Warriors are just nasty. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. But what's your take on Klay?
The third quarter was disrespectful.
Oh, that was crazy. That was disrespectful. But JK, what is your take on Klay Thompson right now? Like where's he at? And obviously, the Warriors have proved they can win without him if other players step up. But obviously, he needs to step up in this series.
And see, here's one of the things about the Warriors that I wish the sports media will pump the brakes on, because right now I'm getting all this Klay Thompson's washed. Klay Thompson Jordan Poole's trying to take Klay Thompson's spot. I'm sure you guys have seen it all. Listen. Klay Thompson is coming off of 2 career-ending type injuries back-to-back. ACL injuries, if you look at all the doctor's records, not on Klay, but on ACL injuries in general, they take 2 years to fully heal, not just 1. We're able to play on 1 because science and medicine is incredible nowadays, and the technology has enabled you to bounce back from that faster than ever before. And then he had an Achilles injury. This is not a twisted ankle. This is not like Steph, a broken hand where you just sit and let it heal, an off-shooting hand. These are, if it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago even, these are 2 career-ending type sports injuries. And people expect the same Klay Thompson, who was uninjured, to come back. Can we pump the brakes on that and just give him a year to fully heal and fully recover? And he's also older. He's older. I'll tell you this. I bet Boston's not going to leave him alone and let him shoot threes like they do with Draymond. So, you tell me, is Klay Thompson washed enough where they're just going to let him shoot threes on the perimeter? Absolutely not, because he will put up 40 on top of your head and jog back in TD Garden. He doesn't care. He's like Steph. He and Steph, they call them the Splash Brothers still for a reason, because it does not matter. Any given night, hobbled Clay, uninjured Clay, you leave him alone by himself, he will hurt you. So it's his injury. He's coming back from 2 catastrophic in any other era, career-ending type injuries. Let's let him get fully recovered and then tell him he's washed. And I bet you won't, because he'll put up 60 in one quarter and take a series away.
Exactly. Unlike John Starks in 1993, he will find his shooter's spot and he will score on you. Definitely.
Whether you contest him or not.
Yeah. And as a Knicks fan, I still haven't forgiven John Starks for 2 for 14 in Game 7 against Houston in 19. But that's besides the point. That's besides. I'm showing my age a little bit. That's besides the point. At that point, I'd rather they should have switched back over to chasing OJ on the highway. That was the series with OJ on the highway. But crazy. So John, now you're talking about this series. The worst that can go back. To Golden State is back 2-2, and it seems like the way Boston's MO has been all playoffs, that they have a hot game on the 3-point line, and then the next game they falter. So in their pattern, they should go in and win Wednesday. It's Wednesday night, right? I thought the game it's crazy to try to follow this schedule, how spread out these games are, but don't get me started on that. Our boy Chris Russo went off on that today too, John. I don't know if you heard Chris today.
I heard him. He's 1,000%. First of all, let me just get this out off my chest with the schedule, and then I'll go back to the actual game itself. With the NBA Finals, I understand what they're trying to do, try to prolong the series, make sure they don't wear them out. When you had the conference finals essentially every other day, and you make sure that they were on a strict schedule, like, okay, you start the series on Monday, your next game's Wednesday, Friday, Friday, Sunday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, so on and so forth. Why we get to the finals, all of a sudden we got to change it? I mean, you mean to tell me that, and it's not with Boston, I can kind of understand because they only had 3 days off, and Golden State had a full week. But I mean, my goodness gracious, the 2 days off in between when the series is at the same location bothers the hell out of me. I mean, game one play game one Thursday. Game two, Saturday. Ratings, what they have been baseball is for their wild card games on FS1 and TBS. I mean, so the ratings have been bad, so you can't even use the ratings argument. Game 1 should be Thursday, game 2 should be Saturday. You want to have the 2-day gap while the series is changing series? I have no problems with that. And then if that's the case, then game 3 in Boston should be tonight. And game 4, the second game in Boston, should be on what? Should be on Wednesday. No, wait. Game 2 Saturday, Sunday and Monday off. So game 3 should be tomorrow, and then game 4 should be on Thursday. And then when you go to the 1-1-1 in games 5, 6, and 7, then if you want to have the 2 days off in between, I think it kills the momentum of the series. But if you want to because they're travel days, I'm all for it. But the point is that the first 4 games of the finals, with the 2-day travel day gap in between games 2 and 3, it should be one game 1 this night, break game 2 other night. And the other thing that bothers me is that I can live with the 9 o'clock start time in games that play in Golden State. I cannot live with the 9 o'clock start time when the game is being played in Boston. I mean, why don't we? And Doug said, "Get your the wine and cheese." That was funny on the radio today. But why we're at it? Why don't we tip the game off at 10:45 at night? For the people that get off work at about 7, that come into work at about 2, that come into work at about 2, 1, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, so they can go hop on the train at the TD Garden and watch the game land. Why don't we start the game at 10:45 at night? I mean, the Golden State fan is going to watch the game. It's not like they have to leave work early or avoid traffic to go to the arena. Okay, the Golden State fan is going to watch their team play in the NBA Finals. That's a good fan base, very good, passionate fan base. A lot passionate than the Miami Heats of the world and other NBA fan bases. as much as no matter how much they try to throw crap at Charles Barkley, there's still a passionate fan base. But still, the Golden State fan will watch their team play if they tip off an NBA Finals game at 1 o'clock in the afternoon local time. It's irrelevant. We cannot start an NBA Finals game at 8 o'clock when the game's going on in Boston. But anyway, that's besides the point. Golden State 5-0 in the postseason, coming off a loss, outscoring their opponents by an average of 15.5 points a game in those games. That points per game differential, 5th highest across the past 50 NBA playoffs. 4th on that list is the Celtics. So I anticipate Boston to get off the deck and play a solid game at home. You know, they're not down 2-0. It's 1-1. You flush the game down the toilet onto the next one with a 2-day gap in between. It's the quote-unquote series opener at home to TD Garden, the first NBA Finals game in that building in over a decade. The crowd's passionate, going to be round to go. So I expect a good performance out of Boston in Game 3. I anticipate Golden State to lose game. This is going to be no team is going to win. No team's going to win back-to-back games. I honestly don't see that happening. I see Boston taking 2-1, Golden State taking Game 4 to go 2-2 as we fly back to the Chase Center. And real quick with Klay Thompson, 11 points, 4 of 19, 21% from the field, was 1 of 8 from 3, and shot 1 of 13 on contested field goals. I understand your point. That, and first of all, whoever was the idiot that was spewing such blasphemy about Klay Thompson needs to head examine. How dare you talk about such blasphemy about Klay Thompson, saying that Jordan Poole's going to take a spot? What, you lost your mind? Anyway, Klay Thompson, he's going to get his groove back. I understand those are 2 big-time injuries. And listen, my guy from my Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, he had to play an entire season with a knee brace still on his leg. And there were certain points early on in the season where he couldn't be as mobile and be as shifty with his legs as he was, and ended up being as the season wore on. So I understand the significance of the ACL and the Achilles injury back to back. But the bottom line is, if you're Klay Thompson, as much as I feel sorry for him and the sympathy, and I'm not going to go out there and kill him for shooting bad, because that's what Jordan Poole is there for, and Steph Curry, who's the MVP of the team. Bottom line is, this isn't a nice little road trip against Sacramento and the San Antonio Spurs in the middle of February. This is the NBA Finals. If your injury is altering your game, and we're just speculating, but if it's that much where he's struggling to get his feet under him, so it's affecting his play negatively the way that it did last night, and if you're Klay Thompson, you either got to do 2 things: bite the bullet, power through it, and find some way to manage it, to build up your endurance again, and play through it like a champ. Or you gotta take the unselfish teammate route. Say, hey, Steve, my endurance is not there yet. I still got to go through a regular training camp, a regular off season, and still go through the 82 games from October to April before I'm ready to go 120% in the NBA Finals game. I'll be able to play when you need me, but I'm gonna have to be a closer or your setup man, come off the bench 8th, 9th inning of a tight game. I can't play 30 plus points a night until I get my legs back underneath. Those are 2 options: bite the bullet, or he's got to say, Steve, you got less workload until he's either able to get his endurance back or find his groove, whichever one comes first.
Look, no, Klay Thompson. This is not Jason Tatum, where he's going to sit up there and say, I'm not that guy. Klay Thompson feels like he's just as much that guy as Steph Curry. What all-star Hall of Famer is going to say, Coach, take me out of the game? No Hall of Famer is going to say that. No NBA player is going to say that. What do you mean? No way. No way.
Not necessarily. I don't expect Clay to do that, and I honestly don't think he should do that. I was just giving a rebuttal to your argument, saying, Clay Thompson, he's still dealing with the aftermath of his injuries, and that could be affecting his play. So it was more of a rebuttal to your argument rather than me, and he's probably not watching this anyway. But if he is, than me saying, "Hey, Clay, take games 3, 4, and 5 off, and we'll see if the series gets that far to game 6." He's not going to do that, nor should he do that. But it was more of a rebuttal back to your piece about Clay with the injury.
All right, JK. I just we got to go to commercial, so I just need a quick take from you. So last take from you. Does after games 3 and 4, do we go back to Golden State tied at 2, or does Golden State win both here in Boston? What do you think?
I think Golden State and Boston split in Boston.
All right, so we go back to
2-2.
All right, we go back 2-2. All right, we got to go to commercial break. After the commercial break, we're going to bring Coach Mike on, talk a little hockey, talk a little college sports. We'll be right back.
Get ready. This summer, the Arena League Sports is on ASAP Network. Tune in live on either the Tiki Live or Roku app, as well as your smart home TV.
All right, welcome out. Yes, we are so excited about having the Arena League on the network, and we want to bring in my boy, Coach Mike. Mike, what's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining us, everyone. This is my buddy Mike, a huge New York Rangers fan, huge hockey aficionado, if you will. Been a crazy last couple of days watching the games, planning on the couch. Unfortunately, I had COVID the last week, so it's been kind of good to sit and watch the games, but I'm feeling much better now, back up and running. So yeah, and Mike, Jonathan lives about 40 minutes from Tampa, so he's been getting that Tampa buzz out in the west coast of Florida, Gotcha. So anyway, but yeah, give me your take on this series so far. It's been Rangers go in, they win 2 games at home. Yesterday they lose in the last minute. The third period was basically played mostly in the Tampa zone. What's been your take on this series so far?
I guess I'm taking it, number one, from a point of view where this is all bonus hockey. This is all icing on the cake. We weren't supposed to be competing. Rangers weren't supposed to be competing for another couple of years. So to get this far at this point, this is great. To go up 2-0 on the defending champs, you kind of started to get a little bit excitement going, But they're still the defending champs, and you can't take it for granted. The back and forth of the periods, the penalties that are being taken by Tampa Bay and New York Rangers, either capitalizing or not. I mean, this series has everything. It's a heart attack on crack, to be honest with you. That's the way I feel watching these games. You just never know what's going to happen. Last night, 2-0. History says Rangers are going to hold on to this one because they've been that good. But it's defending champs again. And you just never know. You don't take it for granted. So my take on it is I sit in the same spot every game because I'm too nervous to move around. So it's been one of the best series I think I've seen. And we haven't even gotten to the point where it's going to get exciting yet.
No, it definitely has it's been exciting. It's been up and down. I know watching yesterday, I was like, all right, we're going to go to overtime, and then they score. I was like, oh, man, you got to be kidding me. But
it has everything. Everything.
But it didn't surprise me, too, because I was expecting them to lose yesterday. Not like that, but I was expecting them to go into Tampa and lose just because, it is the champs, as you said. And that crowd in Tampa, they're crazy out there. Jonathan, what's been the vibe on the West Coast as far as Tampa with this series that they went down to the Rangers? What have you been hearing as far as the West Coast vibe out there?
I have a lot of Tampa Bay Lightning people in my circle, and I will tell you, they're nervous. They're nervous. Tampa has, besides the 1 year, I forget what year it is, where they got swept in the first round. I mean, when you go back-to-back championships, the expectations get way ratcheted up high. And like you said, Mike, this New York Rangers team wasn't supposed to be here. So the expectation's even higher because you're supposed to beat them and you're down 0-2. So game 3 was we got to win, or like they were going to tear the streets up out here. Like they are a passionate fan base. But Tampa, like Mike said, Tampa's a defending champs. And from the games that I've watched, they're never out of the game. Tampa's never out of the game. It doesn't matter how many goals you score. They can come back in the last 30 seconds and just beat you. And so expectations are high, but they were nervous out here. They were nervous.
They're definitely nervous. Mike, the youth of this Ranger team is blowing me away. How young this team has gotten. And, a lot of these names, I'm still having problems pronouncing it, but how good's Zibanejad, that trade for him? They were saying if they, God willing, if they actually won the cup, they're saying this Zibanejad trade could almost be on the level of the Messier trade from 93. If
you think about this, and funny enough, you should say that because I was thinking about this and talking about it. I think it was yesterday. So if you look at where who's traded, they traded Brassard, right?
Right.
Brassard was the main piece of that trade, and Brassard now I think he's on one of the teams right now playing in the finals. This guy's bounced around the league for how many years and how many teams. So the initial thought about it is like, all right, why are we trading this? And now looking at the results, we've had one of the best centers in all of hockey for the last 6 years now, 7 years he's been with the team. And, I always look at what you gave up for it. And we gave up a journeyman. So just the fact that he's coming into his own, the comparisons to Messier that you make, and the way you look at this team and the way it was built, number one, you have the youngsters. Look back to 94. You had Kovalev. You had Zubov. You had Nemchinov. All these kids that were 21, 22, Kovalev being the youngest of them, right? And then you went out and you traded a couple of years prior, and that year you got rid of Gartner, an older guy, and you brought in young talent. You got rid of Amonte, a young gun, bringing in, I think it was the Larmer trade.
Right.
And then you traded Doug Waite up to Edmonton, and that brought in a couple more pieces. And that 94 team, if you look at it and compare it to now, what we did, we went out, we got the Vetrano, who's a sniper, somebody that we gave up a couple of nothing for, basically. They went out and got Kopp, which is another kind of piece, like the Mateau and the Noonan trade. These two guys, Noonan came in as a sniper, Mateau came in as the fourth liner. If you look at these two trades and make your comparisons, they gave up nothing. They're still young. They have these guys now in their possession for another couple of years under rookie contracts, entry-level contracts, and then Kopp being the one that they're aiming to re-sign. They're still going to be sitting there at a young, average age with Will Cooley and Othman coming up behind them. Right. And we're not even talking about Zach Jones, and we're not even talking about Lundqvist down in Hartford.
Right.
They're so young, it's ridiculous. And I don't even know where to put this excitement. Something's got to give. Someone's got to go. Who's it going to be, and how is it going to change the chemistry and the building process that they've created?
No,
but I'm excited about it.
Oh, it's definitely a very exciting time to be a New York Ranger fan. I know, I remember in 94, people said, now I can die in peace. But now we're kind of being like, well, maybe we should get another cup here before we definitely go. All right. Well, one more take on this. And then I want to move on to a subject, which I know you'll have a lot to say because of your job. I want to talk about the goaltending in this series. I mean, two brilliant goaltending. Shesterkin's been standing on his head. I mean, he had yesterday was 52 shots on him, which is insane. Had to have 52 shots and save 49 of them. And Vasilevsky, who's been probably the best goaltender on the planet the last 2 years. I mean, a goaltending. I mean, we always say goaltending wins cups, but can Shesterkin carry this team the way Zalewski has carried Tampa the last couple of years?
The only way Shesterkin can carry this team is if Trouba stops taking penalties. That's the only way. That's the only way. Trouba lost the game for them yesterday. It was not
the second penalty was a bad penalty. Yes, it was.
Terrible. Absolutely horrible. They scored on with 3 power plays they scored on, right? And Trouba was 2 of the power plays, 2 of his penalties, and the big penalty that they took away the 4-minute double minor.
Right.
So if you think about it, can Shesterkin win this? Yes. Shesterkin can be the main cog in this, but their defense and the silly penalties have to stop. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from Vasilevsky. The guy is absolutely ridiculous. Just because he was shaky in the first 2 games, that does not take away the fact that this guy has won 2 cups in a row. He's been the best out there. So just because you're shaky, I mean, look, you saw Shesterkin up in Pittsburgh. The guy got pulled 2 games in a row. All right. So even Vezina Trophy finalists have their issues. You can't ever close the book on them. It's like everybody say, like, I couldn't stand listening to Madison Square Garden chanting how Igor's better. Okay, great. He's better for that game. But this is Vasilevsky we're talking about. This is not, we're not looking at Domingue, it's seriously. And so can Shesterkin win it? Yes, he can. But they must stay out of the box. They stay out of the box. You can't, Stamkos isn't going to go to work. You keep he's just I planned to forget his name because he bothered me the whole game yesterday. What's his name? The Russian kid on Lightning.
I can't matter. Think of it. Right.
Yeah, but doesn't matter because I hate him right now.
Right.
but yeah, he can do it. Rangers have to just play their game
and be disciplined.
Yep.
You got to be disciplined. Right. You can't give championship teams life in a 7-game series. You can't.
No chances. You have to put them away, just like in game 1. I wasn't happy 4-2. 5-2, okay. 6-2 was much better for me.
Yeah. Exactly. Mike and I text during the entire game. It's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely nuts. All right, so we will see what happens tomorrow night. Hopefully, the Rangers will go up 3-1. But even if they go back 2-2, if they can hold home serve in this series, we'll take it in 7 once again. You never know.
Listen, they're the only team that have played the maximum game so far.
Yes.
So I wouldn't expect anything less.
Exactly.
Anyway,
these are the champs, Mike. These are champs.
Yeah. I expect them going 7. I got to be honest.
Yeah. Just a score update: Colorado in the Western Conference is up 1-0 on Edmonton. They probably might finish that. I saw it.
I'm watching it.
But
man, how impressive have the Avalanche been? Wow,
unreal.
They've been impressive. But I think the fact that Edmonton's in this series is just, I think Connor McDavid needs some more airtime. He is one of the superstars of this league, and we definitely need to show him more. All right, Mike, I want you to stick around for this because this is something I think you'll have a lot to say on. This week, Ohio State football coach Ryan Day came out and asked his boosters for $13 million for name and image likeness rights to maintain his roster. I'm going to go to you, Mike. We're going to go around the table on this. Mike, you're an athletic director at a school. You're prepping kids to go, move on to eventually go to college to play college sports. I mean, has this name and image likeness rights? I mean, has it gotten out of control so quickly, so fast at this point? I mean, you talk to parents who have dreams of their kids playing college ball, I'm sure. What is your take on this?
Well, funny enough, being a parent of a future college athlete.
Yeah, you just went through the recruiting process. That's right.
Yeah. My daughter was recruited, and she'll be playing ball over Kaiser.
Good for her.
And thank you. The biggest thing that I've seen more, and my take on it is, look, if they're going to use you to make money, why shouldn't you make money? And I understand the whole concept behind it, because why should these kids be the poster child for your university and bring in all these millions and millions of dollars because of their abilities that you're bringing them in? Yeah, okay, you're giving them a free education. I get it. But at the end of the day, when they graduate, some of these kids who don't go professional, who don't make it to the next level, where do they get theirs? Now, coming from an athletic director's point of view, and that's a parent, coming from an athletic director point of view, do I believe that they deserve this? Yes, I do. There are a lot of things that universities in the past have taken advantage of student successes, and they have a right to be compensated in certain ways. The way the money's gotten out of hand and how much money that they're spending on the kids, that could be a little bit more of a discussion, I would say. Maybe there's parameters for those kind of things. Maybe there's levels of amount of money that they should be getting. But also, what the students and the athletes are doing now is they're self-promoting from the very day that they get into a program, whether it's 8th, 9th grade. They're on Twitter. They're out there putting their highlight tapes out. They are self-promoting constantly. And our coaches are too. Every coach does it. Every coach is promoting, their kids to get them to the next level so that they have the opportunity to get a college education for free and play sports at the next level. Everybody's doing it, and that's the way it should be. So I kind of like that students have the opportunity to make some money, but I do believe that there should be parameters in the amount and how they do get it. Just like there's salary caps in every other sport, there should be some kind of structure, a salary structure that they can get, not just, hey, I'm going to the highest bidder. Every college should be equal, I believe. That's my thought in that.
Right. No, and it's a good thought. I mean, but Jai, like a program like an Ohio State, who's always been it's a blue blood program like an Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, USC. But it's interesting that the whole thing with Saban went down with I can't remember the coach at Texas A&M, but the way that whole thing went down. What?
Jimbo
yes,
Fisher.
Exactly. The way that whole thing went down, and now for the Ohio State to come out and a clear statement asking that boosters for money, which was usually done behind closed doors. I mean, Jai. I mean, college football, especially college football, has always been a big business. But is this going to completely make it just it's all going to be strictly business, strictly dollars and cents, and it's going to take the whole quote unquote amateur athlete completely out the door now, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what it's such a complex situation with the NIL. The NCAA has screwed this whole thing up so tremendously. It's just been a complete cesspool. It's just been a mess. It's just been a complete mess. No order, no structure. You got the league. I mean, we even saw it 2 years ago when it came to what conferences will and won't play because of the pandemic 2 years ago with college football. I mean, there's no general sense of leadership within the NCAA, especially with the sports that make them with the sports that make them the most money, such as college basketball and college basketball and college football. It's been a mess. Absolutely, the college athlete, especially the ones that play those big time sports that bring in those universities and those colleges money handle. Of course, they should be allowed to make money off of their name, their face, their likeness, whether it's being in video games, sponsorship, whatever. The university makes billions off of these athletes, student athletes' backs, billions off of them, and the athlete and the excuse for the longest time I got sick and tired of hearing was, well, they do get something in return. They get a scholarship and an education.
Thank you.
Bullcrap. Okay, yes, they get an education, but good God, man. That the scholarship money literally runs out as soon as you stop attending the university and/or you graduate. Come on, I mean, and what about the college basketball, college football players that are good enough within the college realm, but they're not getting scouted by the NBA teams and the NFL teams about participating in scouting. What about them? What they can't get an extra financial head start on life because they were a damn good college football or college football player during in their young 20s. It's just, and I got Nick Saban, and I love Nick Saban. He has forgotten more about the sport of football than I'll ever know in my life. A football savant and a national champion to the 10th, to the infinitieth degree. But Nick Saban, it's like sour grapes. Nick Saban's all pissed off because he realized, hey, the playing field is starting to level because with the name, image, and likeness stuff, universities can kind of use that as an incentive to get the either the amateur athlete or to get the 5-star recruit to their university. It levels the playing field now, whether it's just Alabama, who we all know is top 2 ranked in the country every single year, and it's practically damn near a lock to play in the national championship game every January. Now with this NIL stuff becoming more apparent and more mainstream, now starting to level the playing field, and Nick Saban doesn't like it. And then Jimbo Fisher wants to, burn his bridges and then start attacking Nick Saban. I mean, really? And throwing in Deion Sanders in the mix. I thought Deion and Nick Saban were buddies because they did the Affleck commercial together. Guess we won't be seeing any more of those shoot things, and we won't be seeing those two in those Affleck commercials anymore with the Affleck duck during college football season. But again, I mean, and even in Deion Sanders' case, and I don't think it was Nick Saban, being malicious towards Deion and the stuff he's doing at Jackson State with the HBCU thing versus the predominantly white institution that's Alabama, but he's upset that the playing field is starting to level itself out. But even Deion even has to understand, if Deion was not the head coach at Jackson State University, they would not. It may sound harsh, and it may sound, quote unquote, within me and JK's community, anti-black to say this. But if Deion Sanders wasn't there, you think Jackson State is pulling the numbers that they've been pulling over the last couple of years? JK shaking not a chance in hell. Not even close. So Deion is that name that draw kids in, And I've heard people make the argument too. Well, all them black kids coming to Alabama. Well, I understand that Jackson State's an HBCU, but at the end of the day, I don't know about y'all, but I ain't fitting to spend 4 years, my early 20s living up in Jackson, Mississippi. I don't give a damn if my entire family goes to the school, HBCU or not. I am not going to school in Jackson, Mississippi. And Jackson, Mississippi, whether HBCU or not, is just as a malicious place for people of me and JK's skin complexion as Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Whether you're playing for Saban or whether you're playing for Deion Sanders. So this entire thing's a mess. There's no central leadership within the NCAA, and if the Nick Sabans of the world don't like it because leveling out the playing field, tough. And the thing with the boosters with Ryan Day, it is what it is. It's survival of the fittest. You guys figure it out.
Yeah, no, definitely. Tony,
can I jump in really quick?
I'm not complaining either.
I just want to read this note from Tony, and then the floor is yours, JK. Tony, our producer, sent me a note saying it's been mainly Power 5 schools have now realized that the playing field has been leveled. They don't need to go to these big universities to get all the national recognition to get their brand and name out there. They can take the money, they can use it to upgrade the facilities every year and put it towards that. Most of the colleges upgrade facilities. You don't need to upgrade them almost every year. So interesting tape by our producer. All right, JK, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
No, to piggyback off of what Jay was saying, it goes even deeper than that. Why this is such a big issue, because they're getting upset because the college kids are able to make money that were reserved from the colleges to the people in power. But it goes even deeper than that, because just because you get a scholarship to go to an Alabama, to go to an Ohio State or a USC or whatever, you are one injury away from losing it. One play, one injury. You come down off a basketball, tweak your ankle, that's it. That's it. And then you can't go into the next level. So why are we getting so upset about kids being able to capitalize off of you using their body, their skills, their likeness, their image to make the money that you brought them in to make? And now you're getting upset that they can't make that money when you're using that is borderline slavery. That is borderline slavery. And it needs to stop, because Nick Saban is upset because now he can't dominate the sport like he's been dominating it for the past, decade and a half? Because and then he's going to call out Jimbo. And Deion said, like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you've been here before. Your kids have a next man up mentality. You know why? Because everybody wants to go to Alabama to be a champion. Why? Because the defensive linemen, the cornerbacks, the receivers who show out at Alabama, not so much the quarterbacks, but every other position who shows up at Alabama, they get drafted to the next level in the NFL. That's why. That's why. Jay said it. Alabama's not the friendliest place for black people. It's not. You think all those kids are going to go there if they know, hey, I can go to the University of Colorado? All of their people get drafted into the NFL. All of them. And I'm just talking primarily college football, but all of them get drafted. If I know that I can go to a school where I'm going to maximize my value and get drafted and make one of these multi-million-dollar contracts, yeah, I'm going to go. That just happens to be Alabama until NIL. And now it's leveling the playing field. And Nick Saban's like, well, these kids aren't going to be able to manage their money. Dude, it's about your money. It's not about their money. Now that we've got Instagram and all this stuff, you're getting upset that they can actually get paid like you are getting paid to be the coach at Alabama. What are we talking about here? We are talking about people in power afraid of losing that power. And now they're just coming up with reasons as to why kids can't make money off of their own body and skills. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And this goes even deeper than college football, because this isn't just for D1 schools. This is for all college athletes. What about those softball players at the D3 schools, those lady softball players at the D3 schools that aren't able, never get the recognition? Now they can make money and get the recognition from their skills. What about those lacrosse players? What about the swimmers, the gymnasts, all those people who are all encompassed into this college NIL situation? Now they can make money. And they might not be good enough to go to a D1 school, but they can still have life-changing money because of this. And Nick Saban, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was also thinking, what about the golfers that kind of use this as a launching pad if they plan on going to the PGA Tour, and because back in the day, you had to start from scratch. If you weren't anybody, nobody knew who you were. You had to work your way. You had to win majors, win tournaments to build your way up to where you get those $1 million endorsements. Exactly.
And hope,
now with the NIL
hope that
stuff,
someone saw you.
Right. Now the NIL stuff, if you plan on being on a PGA Tour, you'll get more exposure, and more likelier than not, you won't be a broke amateur trying to make what the Tiger Woodses and the Justin Thomases and the Ricky Fowlers of the world, because what they'll be having their endorsement deals playing on the pro circuit, but you at the same time you're getting your little something playing college golf. So it's right. And it gives the opportunity for the women's athletes, everybody. But one of the things that why it's caused so much controversy, to go back to my original point, is that there's been no central element of leadership within the NCAA.
Yep.
They tried to avoid this for college athletes getting paid for years, and their procrastination has came back to bite them, and it's biting in areas that the Nick Sabans of the world don't like it to be. Not saying that Nick Saban has been, he's kumbaya with everything the NCAA has done throughout their history, but I'm using it as an example.
It wasn't procrastination, Jay. It wasn't procrastination. They did it on purpose. It's about damn time these kids make money from their skills and their image and their likeness. They can go get a job when they're working on campus. Why can't they make money when they're on campus? And you're going to pay to bring them in.
What? It's funny you should say that. And what I'm thinking about in this aspect is, number one, bills don't stop when you're in college. So, there's always the necessity for making money. But the other thing is when you're on campus, and look, I see all my kids going off, and I talk to them when they get back. What's your day like? What's your regiment like? And look, these guys are training 7 days a week. They don't have the opportunity to go out and make the extra money or go get a job on campus. They don't have the time. So if they're dedicating their lives to this sport and to help this program get some recognition and notoriety, where's the harm and giving back to them what they deserve if you're going to use them to promote your program.
Exactly.
I don't see anything wrong with it at all. And then you look, then what you were saying earlier, the softball players and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, what happens now when the women come in and you want to start paying the women for these kind of things? Is it going to be the same money? Is it going to be on the same level? Because Division I is Division I. You know, Tennessee is Tennessee in women's basketball. You know, you're going to start talking about all the equality stuff coming up now too. So, right, think about it. My daughter's a flag football player. Doesn't have notoriety yet, but it will because it's becoming huge. You know, in time down the road when the future girls come out there, what's going to happen with that? Where is the governing body that's going to take control and create the parameters as to how and what these kids deserve, whatever it is? Because, you know, hey, the kid going to Alabama, the number one recruit in the nation, is going to make $5 million just to sit there and smile in front of a Cheerios box. I mean, I don't know. But what's the same girl over at Tennessee, number one recruit in the nation, going to get if she's offered something? All these things are going to come into play.
Give them the bag.
Eventually,
give them the bag.
Something's going to have to
give
happen.
them the bag.
No, definitely.
It blows my mind that they have the audacity to say, well, you're getting a free education while they're going to behind the scenes make billions of dollars. And a lot of these college kids, I was listening to a college kid who was playing football when the Nick Saban thing came out. He was talking about what his life was like on the University of Alabama. He played in Alabama, couldn't afford a pizza. He had to pool together with his roommates to afford a pizza.
There was limits on what you could work.
Billions of dollars.
There was limits. If you're a scholarship player, there was limits on the amount of time that you can work. And the facts is, even if you did work, it's not like you were making enough money to buy a pizza.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Couldn't afford a pizza. But you're turning around and making billions of dollars because he's on ESPN making that sack in the national championship game, and you can't give him a piece of that? Come on.
Very ironic.
No, you guys are absolutely right. And unfortunately, we're running out of time. But this conversation definitely can go deeper. The NCAA has definitely been, at fault. Never been ahead of the program. Never been someone to really put this together over the years and years that we've had these issues as far as recruitments, as far as backdoor payments. There's been stories and stuff like that. But we could talk for hours about this. But unfortunately, we are running out of time. So I want to get to the last take of the night. So much many things going on in sports. Basically, if you have a hot take of anything in sports, you want to just throw it out there, a quick little hot take. So JK, I'm going to go to you first. Got a little hot take to finish off the night for me.
Hot take. I think DeShawn Watson doesn't play in Cleveland this year.
So you think he gets suspended the whole year?
I think they shut him down for the year. 24? Yeah. Something ain't right.
I know. I wanted to talk more about that tonight. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. No, I agree with you. Definitely a good take. All right, Mike, what about
just to save face for the NFL?
Yeah, exactly. All right, Mike, give me a hot take. Give me a good Mets take. What's been going on with our Mets here?
New York Mets could turn out to be one of the best teams in franchise history this year.
Oh, come on.
In franchise history.
Yes.
Look back at their teams in franchise history, not in Major League Baseball history, franchise history. They're doing things that I haven't seen them do and consistently do them without the Mets upset that we're all used to. We haven't seen too many of those these days. And if you see a mess up, for some reason, they're making up for it. Like last night when they gave up the lead in the 9th and took it back in the 10th. That wasn't a Mets team for the past 5-6 years. I mean, maybe the World Series year in 2015.
I was about to say, didn't they go to the World Series?
Yeah, but they were a fluke to go there. This team is a solid. Now they lose this team. That's an upset.
Yes.
Okay.
It's all about culture. We've seen Buck Shoulders installed this culture in the Mets team.
Yep.
And he's basically said, all right, there's analytics, but I live this game, and he manages from his soul. The fact that he took Peterson out after one pitch the other night against Mookie Betts, saying, oh no, I see what's happening here. I got to change this right now. It's just absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. All right.
Mookie Betts.
Yes. Jai is an Orioles fan, and I see him on Twitter every day talking about the Orioles. So go ahead.
I live vicariously through you Met fans with having Buck Showalter as your manager. I tell all you Met fans this all the time. This team, the 2014 Orioles, they won their division by double digits. AL East now. AL East with Yankees, Red Sox in it. Won their division by double digits that year and won 96 games. Look up who were the starting pitchers in that rotation for that 2014 team that came within 4 wins of winning the AL pennant. And Angelos with ownership. This Met team is going to win the World Series. If Buck Showalter could do what he did for my team, with what he had to work with and the people he had to work with and the rotation, go look up who made up the pitching staff of the starting pitching staff of those 2014 Orioles. Go look them up. If he could do that with that Orioles team and win 96 games, and the Mets are currently sitting at 37-19, the New York Mets are going to win the World Series.
It's
and mind you, they're doing without DeGrom and Scherzer right now.
It's June, fellas.
Exactly my point. Buck Showalter is a baseball genius.
No doubt. And
he
of
said
course,
the World Series. He didn't say he said the World Series.
He definitely
did. And I could die in peace.
Yes, I definitely like that take. It'll be nice to win another one since 86, because 86 was a magic year, and we still live in the past when it comes to Met fans, unfortunately. And unfortunately, we are out of time, everybody. I want to thank all you guys for coming. You guys really brought it tonight. This is amazing stuff, Mike, you're welcome back. If the Rangers will continue on next week, we'll have you back for more Rangers talking to you. JK, you're welcome anytime, man. We'll definitely have you back. And Jai, this is home for you, man. Jai, you always have a place here. And everyone, we will see you next week. We're out.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a place. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces.